Hello everyone, this is Kyle Welch with RCR Wireless News. I want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, Connecting Edge Devices to the Enterprise, Cloud, and Internet of Things, presented by Telit. Our presenter today is Fred Jens, President and CEO at ILS Technology, a Telit company. At this time, I'd like to pass the presentation over to Fred.
Thanks, Kyle. Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking a part of your important day and spending it with us. Thanks to RCR Wireless for hosting this event. My name is Fred Jens. As Kyle said, I'm the CEO of ILS Technology. We're a Telit company. When we go through this presentation, clearly it's going to be interactive at the end with Q&A, but I hope that I cover most of the points that you're looking for in the course of the presentation, and I look forward to the next hour that we'll spend together. So why are we here? I think a lot of people look at the number, 50 billion. There's many different numbers, but I think unquestionably we all know that the number is quite large and that we are all looking at a pretty substantial, very substantial actually, level of growth in the connected devices or the connected things as we look forward in the Internet of Things economy. Now, a connected thing is not necessarily a valuable thing. Deriving value from those connections is really what we're going to talk about today, and driving an ROI on those connected things is very urgent. If we can't make an ROI on a connected thing, like I say, connection without value is called cost, and those typically become science projects, and no enterprise customer and no vendor really wants to engage in science projects in the Internet of Things at this point in time because there's so much value work to be done today. So as we go through this, I look to educate you a little bit on edge to enterprise, and for us, that really means delivering value. When we take a look at Telit, Telit is a company. We have a broad portfolio of technology. I think if you actually peeled back these statistics, you'd find that Telit in whole is probably one of, if not the single most focused and probably largest public company focused exclusively on IoT and M2M enablement. To date, we've shipped over 100 million modules. When I say modules, clearly Telit is in the cellular wireless module business for the industrial Internet of Things assets. We have location modules as well as the different modes of cellular modules from 2G to LTE and beyond. We have about 800 employees. We are serving approximately 80 countries with our footprint of sales offices, reps, and direct relationships with over 5,000 customers worldwide. So when we talk about enabling the Internet of Things, we're talking about this as a global opportunity, one that we see from our customer footprint, as well as one that our customers see from a deployment model. Internet of Things is a global deployment model for many large multinational companies, as well as potentially smaller companies who are looking to expand a solution, a device, or an application outside of their local reach or their local carrier operator environment to a global footprint. Now, when we talk about Telit and we talk about, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner this little marker that we saw, say one stop, one shop. One stop, one shop to us really has, I think, a great meaning and a meaning that resonates with our customers. So on the left side, Telit offers the modules. We offer what we call cloud-ready modules. So our module family actually has embedded inside of the modules are device-wise AT command set for connectivity into our cloud service. So there's a set of APIs that are ANSI standard APIs that are actually residing on the module families. Next, we have the ability to provide network services or data plans to our customers globally. This is done through a variety of relationships that we have with several global MNOs, as well as partnerships with many other MNOs that may not be in our wholesale model. And finally, we have the ability to help customers take this information that they have instrumented on the left side, transmitted across the network, ultimately integrating it into an application environment where value can be derived. And when we talk about the application environment, it's really important to note that there are many, many ways to consume this information and to provide value, depending on what kind of business you're in, what type of legacy systems that you might be using to measure your business or manage your business, to where you may want to go with incremental services going forward. So let's take a deeper look at what this all means. When we talk about data collection or onboarding a device, we really look at this across a portfolio of challenges that exist today for customers. The world, if we go to that first number of 50 billion when we began the presentation, I don't know how many billions are out there, but there's a lot of assets that are in the world today that are either critical infrastructure or legacy assets that were deployed, that are managing elements in our cities, in our infrastructure, in our transportation environments, etc., that basically were deployed with no thought at all around connectivity or in an IoT environment. For that model, we have a product line or an offering to connect basically the fixed asset world IoT domain, and we call that our asset gateway. Our asset gateway is really a software component that runs on many open platforms. These are the open platforms from partners of ours that create the router technologies or the gateway technologies with maybe a cellular uplink or potentially even not a cellular uplink. To the left of the asset gateway, talking to the legacy things, is a component of our value proposition that is around the driver libraries and the protocols that exist in this legacy world of existing things. So there's a plethora of building automation protocols, industrial automation protocols, etc., that are things that we need to speak to, but we need to speak their language. And then in the asset gateway, we have the ability to manage that information, filter that information, create critical decisions or alarms and events on that information, and ultimately move the important components of that connection or that information up through the network. The next component that we have there is our cloud-ready Telit modules. The cloud-ready Telit modules is a module family that actually has the device-wise APIs and technology embedded inside, and it gives us the opportunity to really accelerate the innovator community who are building new things. So of our 5,000 customers, as they're refreshing their product or we're gaining new customers with our module business, what an opportunity that is presented to them is the opportunity to very quickly click to configure their asset through a few AT commands into the network and into our cloud AEP offering. The next piece is a great piece as well, because at the end of the day, not everything is wireless, not everything in the world is Telit. We know that. We're very much adherent to open standards. And our TR50 API family, or what we call our device-wise APIs, are indeed an ANSI-approved standard methods protocol that allow us in an open source community, an open source domain, to put our APIs out there for people who are developing something that maybe they don't want to use a wireless module, or they're not using a Telit, maybe they're using a compute platform, maybe they're doing a microcontroller type of an instrumentation device, and they need to just be able to use the open standards piece to connect into the environment. So whether you're an old asset management company, whether you're creating new products, or whether you're creating products with Telit, we have the methods to allow you to get your assets connected into the environment quickly. Now the next piece of this is really components around our services model, or our services business from Telit. We have two portfolio products here. One is called our M2M Air Mobile, and that's basically our connectivity and connectivity value-added services. So this is where our customers who are innovating, getting to market quickly, they want to have a single point to buy their modules or to onboard their assets, and potentially a single point of contact to subscribe to data plans is an offering that we have that allows customers to get to market quickly. And then moving a little bit further to the right, we have what Telit defines as our cloud offering. This is our Application Enablement Platform, and this is where the device information is moved into storage in the cloud, or potentially even transmitted through the cloud to our endpoints and our customers' usage locations. And it's where the network is managed, it's where permissions are granted, where different roles and responsibility and security is taken care of in terms of how do you manage this infrastructure that we call this IoT infrastructure. And that's all done through a management portal. Now the next piece I think is critical. This is where value starts to be really realized by our customers. And here we typically see a couple of key elements in terms of ways or methods that value is created. The top one is probably what we would consider the legacy standard way of thinking about an IoT platform, and that is, how do I just render a graph, a portal, a dashboard, some type of mobile app or web app that can expose some of the information that's created on the asset side and create some type of an action or an alarm or event. And that's done through just some standard HTTP protocols, RESTful interfaces that allow us to go down to the storage elements that are in the MDM Air Cloud, extract them, utilize them for presentation layer, UI, UX kind of experiences. Now, when we talk about large customers that have really substantial install bases, or they're actually a company of any substance, they have back office environments today. They have capital asset management systems, they have financial systems, they have quality systems. Those systems have typically resided, for most existing companies, in some type of a big iron IT environment. And that's where the secondary use case comes in, which is our enterprise gateway. And that allows this new world of IoT infrastructure and connected assets to interface seamlessly with their existing SAP, Oracle, IBM, Microsoft backend systems, so that they can actually immediately, in sort of day zero, day one, create business value. Now, the world isn't all, connected assets through the device-wise methods to connected applications that are existing on the enterprise, headquarters raised floor. We also have methods where we're connecting assets that are coming from potentially new sensor technologies or networking technologies, for example, LoRa or Sigfox. So we kind of call this our things to cloud connectivity. And then on the right side, applications are also rendered in the cloud, where this is typically our cloud to cloud applications space. When we think about this, this is where a lot of companies want to go and are going to do a level of outsourcing, etc. But what we really want to make sure is it's not one or the other. So there's a variety of connections here and services that Telit brings to the market that really allows our customers, whether they're entering the relationship with Telit at the module side, to move all the way up to the application side, or maybe they're entering the Telit relationship with the cloud and they want to move to the left or to the right. We give them that opportunity to scale their business on a global size and scale. So when we look at this, we'll talk a little bit about the MDM Air Cloud platform and the device-wise platform. Our services are really a platform as a services model. This allows people to basically come on board, pay as you go. It reduces risk, it reduces upfront costs. At the end of the day, what that really means is it reduces the hurdle rate to create a valid ROI. And it allows you to really focus on what your company or what your services are all about. And it leaves a substantial amount of the internal plumbing and the intelligent networking pieces to us that you can acquire as a service. Now, platforms are, it's an interesting word. We talk about an application enablement platform, and there are many, many definitions of a platform. But I think one of the things that we want to focus on is we're extremely focused on one, open, and two, horizontal. To us, a thing can be a thing that's in the transportation business, the food and beverage business, healthcare, security, telematics. We turn it into an IT and a data opportunity or problem or challenge. We move that information over the top, and we can distribute or onboard that information into a variety of applications. Those applications might be applications serving, again, transportation, agriculture, energy, or manufacturing. So when we look at this problem set that was, exhibited, from left to right, from things to apps, the type of thing you're connecting on the left and the type of app that you were moving to on the right side of the diagram earlier really defines the industry in which you're playing in. And the nice thing about the MDM Cloud and the DeviceWise platform is it is proven across a lot of different industries today and deployed. The whole idea here is drive your business. So how do you create incremental value to your existing customers, and how do you maybe reshape the business operations or opportunities that your customers see as value delivered by your company? And there's a lot of things to do here. Some of the basic blocking and tackling of IoT was earlier stated as sort of monitoring. Well, monitoring then goes into monitoring and control. How do you make that network go both directions? Structure in place, the security in place to be able to do that. And that drives things like automation businesses, field services business. When you look at field service and you look at maintenance, people are always trying to drive to a predictive maintenance model. That's the next step of value. And they're doing that through analytics. So we're very careful in that we don't compete with our customers. So we work very hard to make sure that we're delivering this information in an organized, consumable way to the applications or to our application partners that allow companies to basically transform their business with some. Now, at the end of the day, value is great, connectivity is great, but we ultimately want to drive innovation and we want to drive revenues. We want to do something that adds value, whether it's incremental profits through new services, whether it's cost savings, or whether it's just improvement of quality of life for compliance. IoT brings so much opportunity in that space. These are points of data, points of information on your assets, the usage of the assets, or potentially the behavior and adoption of your customers that allow you to create and hopefully sustain a competitive advantage or competitive differentiation as you look at your market. It's interesting when you hear some of the larger companies that are out there speaking on this topic, who are sort of transformative folks in the industry. They say if you haven't started doing this today as a larger company, you're probably late. It's common knowledge now that you can connect things and you can actually create value. Before, I think when you look in the rearview mirror, many of these IoT projects might have been too challenging because of the fragmentation of the ecosystem. I mentioned this before, and this is always my mantra when I talk to customers in any venue. Again, if you're not creating new revenue streams, if you're not saving money through enhanced operating costs and procedures, or you're managing compliance in some way, these are sort of the three economic drivers of creating value. Now, clearly, there's other things like customer retention, affinity programs. There are certain convenience factors, but in that value chain, someone up and down the value chain has to be basically accomplishing one of these three things, or potentially all three things, depending on the solution set, that will, at some point in time, turn this into a positive ROI and a project that will ultimately achieve scale and business results, not a failed project that might a sandbox where someone played in for a while, but then became bored because it was costing too much time and effort. And I think people need to look at how IoT creates or modifies their business and how they can achieve these three factors before they really can deploy and engage on a large sort of business re-engineering process of their company. So at the end of the day, what we see frequently is, whether you're a company that's been in the IoT business and you maybe have done 2 or 3 instances of your or revisions of your platform and you're servicing a market, or whether you're a new entrant and you just want to create a new service, or maybe you're an enterprise customer that just wants to do their business better, the key here is to really focus on the applications, what your customers see, what your customers touch, where they see value, or things that drive value to your business, and sort of leave the infrastructure, the technologies below the surface of how do you derive that value to one of the folks that is out there like Telit that can actually deliver this as a service. And that's really how we'll get scale, is an industry. I think about, I'll draw an analogy to ERP. ERP and IoT. ERP 20 years ago was a 3-letter acronym that a lot of enterprises knew they needed to have, but they adopted it and they created an ecosystem around it, and system integrators ultimately managed and tuned these ERP systems, enterprise resource planning systems, to adapt to their business, because no single ERP system is really the same when it's deployed. A beverage company's ERP is not the same as an automaker's ERP. A soft drink company is not the same as an adult beverage company's ERP. 2 soft drink companies' ERP systems are probably not the same. So this framework that was called ERP was ultimately deployed through an ecosystem of people that knew how to engage with that ERP system and tune it to the business needs, so that business who adopted an ERP platform could actually make more money, save more money, or maintain compliance. IoT is very similar. It's a 3-letter acronym. That's probably where the similarities start, and it continues on. People expect IoT to add value, but there's a little bit of a mystery on how they get there. Just like ERP, you had to figure out why and what you wanted to accomplish on your business, and then you needed to implement it, but you didn't need to build the ERP solution from scratch. You took a platform, you acquired it. Back then, you bought the license, but today it's basically typically offered as a service. So you acquire this service and you configure the service to meet your business needs. And that configuration could come in a lot of ways, up to and including integration into your existing platforms, up to and including integration into another cloud services platform for application or analytics, or potentially the dashboards and the web portals that you see on a screen like this. So again, we focus a lot on what will a customer, what will an enterprise, or what will a service provider achieve in terms of value creation by using the platform, and how do we make that easy for them. So what I'm going to do is take you through our portal a little bit. I'm not going to drive and make everybody crazy with too many demos, but I want to show a few examples of what the platform and portal is all about, how you can take information from a thing, present it into a portal, create users, move that information into several different points of value as we go. Now, what's interesting here is you'll see when you look at this and when I go, we also have an opt-in environment where anybody can create an account. So creating an account is free. You can have up to 10 connected non-commercial devices available on our account for development or experimentation. If you move to something that's commercially viable, chargeable, you'll get the support, but you'll also at that point in time derive charges for use of the platform. But we want to encourage the DIY innovator community to be able to use the platform at will. So what you have here is you have a URL. It's cloud.m2mair.com, and I'll flip over to that right here and grab this logon screen, and my credentials are here. I'll log in, and what you'll see is you'll see sort of our welcome page, and this is an organization that we have set up that is set up as a demo account. You can see here that we have a list of things here. It happens to be mostly vehicles tied in to the demo account. And then here we also have some just announcements and alerts, who's logged in the organization, etc. To start, to give you a quick high-level overview, you'll see, we have a Things tab, a Connections tab, a Developer tab, and Help. The platform is highly instrumented from a help screen point of view. A lot of online documentation. It's really, again, geared towards folks that want to be the DIY community and the innovator community, as well as those who are looking at very large enterprise deployments. I'm going to go quickly and show just a vehicle, and this will give you some senses of sort of how we collect and manage information. I'm going to click a car. You're going to see some information pop up on this vehicle. You're going to see its when it was last seen. You're going to see its location. We have technologies that are doing things like reverse geocoding, mapping, etc., built into the platform. We have a concept of alarms and events. So you can create cloud-based triggers based on status of information coming in from connected devices. So here you can see from an alarm and event point of view, the engine is off, the fuel level. When I look at something like the engine off, this is where you could start to see through a timeline or through a table duty cycles. So how frequently is the asset turned on? How frequently is the asset turned off, as an example. When I look a little deeper at an asset, I want to also take a look at properties. Properties can be a variety of things. A thing is defined with alarms. A thing is defined with properties. Properties for us are extensible. Anything you want to know about the asset that is derived through its connection can ultimately be displayed on our portal here, as well as retained in the infrastructure of the platform. So I'll give you an example of something like speed limit. Here what we're doing is we have the ability to sort on date ranges. Maybe we want to take a peek at a specific instance. You can see here that during the drive there must have been heavy traffic, so generally speaking we're driving below the speed limit, the posted speed limit, and this is done with reverse geocoding to a database of speeds in a public highway system, and then basically doing over under, some very, very simple type of analytics or data processing in the platform. If we want to look at a location, I can see that this vehicle is currently parked at an airport. I can look at a satellite view. I can do some things like that are interesting, but not so important. Again, this is just information. Think of this as sort of the developer portal. This is the admin portal. This isn't necessarily the application that someone will present to their customers. This is just how you work with this platform. If I want to see the history of this vehicle, its last trip, I can see that this vehicle went from this area south down to the airport where it exists today. So just the whole concept of being flexible, providing a rich set of information and making that information available to the application builders or to the applications that you have on your current premise very quickly and easily is really the key to success here. To us, a thing is a thing. So I showed you some information about a car, but let's take a look at something else. Let's look at something like a home HVAC. So this is just a connected home. Again, you'll see a thing, and here the thing is a home HVAC monitor. It has alarms, so this could have temperatures. So this is just right, too cold, etc. You can define these alarms however you wish in the platform. You can look at the history of the alarm. You can edit an alarm. You can do all kinds of pretty unique things, but you'll notice that the alarms are presented here in the same way that they were presented with an automobile. You can see that properties, while different in label, are very similar in terms of the way they're presented. Now, all this is neat, and it shows that, from a management point of view, if you're looking at many different thing types, maybe you're a fleet service that's managing a set of fixed assets, and you want to monitor the assets, you want to monitor the fleet, you want to monitor some third, fourth, and fifth types of things. From a management council point of view, things become very common in the way they look. I can look at connections. We come back to the vehicle, and I'll grab this vehicle again, and I'll look at the connections that are here, and I can see in manage rate plans. So this is an environment where you see what the rate plans are. You can see if they're activated and active ready, how much data has been used per connection. You can see and create context from the asset. So if the asset leaves a geofence, for example, maybe I want to increase my data plan because I might want to increase my polling rate to understand where that asset might be. From a developer point of view, we have a very open environment where you can see, define things, define cloud-based triggers. Here's a arrival home geofence trigger that's very quick to investigate. You can see that there's going to edit here. So when this geofence happens and a car comes into home 2, and these are just things that are defined by people, that we're going to basically send a Twilio SMS. So here this action is tied to a Twilio service that allows us to basically send an SMS to a phone number that said the thing, by thing name, is here. So that's just an example of sort of taking a cloud-based data source, setting it to a trigger, and ultimately creating an event that creates an action and moves forward. Now, vehicles are interesting, but this might be more of a customer portal view. So if I take the same vehicle and I look at it, here we see a Taurus, which was the vehicle that I selected. You can see its service intervals. You can see its mileage per day. You can see all kinds of neat things. And this might be something that is delivered to a customer for more of a maybe a driver view or an owner of a small fleet point of view, where they want to take a look at their assets that are out there. It's not necessarily a portal view that you would see in this kind of an environment that isn't as sort of user UI UX friendly. It's something that takes the same exact information, however, and moves it ultimately into an app that's more like this, that has the UI UX feel. Now, we looked at a couple of different things. We had an HVAC system. This is just an example of an application that's running at one of our local universities as an outfitted building. We can look at temperatures, heat maps on the in the campus inside of a very smart building. Just a simple app that they created that allows you to look at different usages. All power. Let's take a look at all the different power points that are out there. We can filter. We can do some unique things here. Again, just grabbing information, presenting it in a way that provides value to someone who is ultimately trying to manage, monitor, or control these types of assets. So these are just some simple dashboarding types of views. Here's something that is a cold chain monitor, basically just a simple application that's taking a look at coolers. These coolers are for movement of drugs and medicines. So these coolers have to have a certain specification in terms of maintaining the reliability, integrity of the pharmaceutical, and ultimately making sure that if it goes below or creates an alarm and event, someone knows. The next example is something where we're feeding information into SAP, and SAP is rendering this in their HANA environment and some of the tools that they have to do visualization around the HANA in-memory storage analytics workspace that they offer. So this would be kind of an example of the service device-wise and MDM Air Cloud moving to a cloud-based offering of SAP and ultimately being delivered from a customer value point of view in a dashboard that the customer's defined with someone like an SAP. So I'm going to stop now, I think, and provide a chance for a few more Q&As. We went through the platform briefly. We talked about the value proposition end-to-end. I would encourage everybody again to think about the idea of feel free to log on, create an account, create a trial environment. And as you can see, all of these pieces and parts that Telit brings to market is really something that we in aggregate think about as the Telit IoT engine. So, one stop, one shop. You can come and you can find modules. You can find, intelligent embedded modules with the cloud onboarding technologies. You can seek us out for data plans and connectivity services and value-added services. You can move up the stack into basically cloud and application enablement solutions. And you've got a plethora of partners and ecosystem folks around us that can take and turn this information or these services into something that brings value to your business very, very quickly. If you're interested in a contact point, these charts will be sent out as well. You can reach out for the purposes of this webinar, reach out to brookwalsh@telit.com. It gives you a great place to speak to a live person. In addition, you can always go back and go to our portal and register for create an account and set up your environment and begin to play. Questions?
All right, Fred. This is Kyle
I'll
again.
turn it over to you, Kyle, for questions.
Great. Thanks for a great presentation. We've had a number of questions come in, so we'll just jump right in. First one being, if someone has a combination of some older devices and newer ones from several different manufacturers, is there a way to integrate them, or does one need to replace them with a single new model?
Absolutely not. We are big believers of onboarding existing assets. So again, we'll go back to this slide that's up in the presentation. You may have legacy assets. You might have non-Telit assets that are out there. Another method that we have for onboarding is basically a hosted asset gateway in the cloud. We call it our proxy service. So we can onboard a legacy connected device as well into our environment. So absolutely, we want to be able to onboard existing assets as well as new assets.
Great. Next question we had come in, how does IoT deal with data security?
A good example or a good question is, again, so there's a couple of things that we have to be mindful of in the security space. There's security at the edge, there's security in transit, and then there's ultimately security when the data ultimately comes to rest. When we think about security, we at Telit have a few different thoughts on this, and it's very important to us. One thing around the security side is the idea of roles and responsibility and audit. So from a systems end-to-end point of view, it's not just that you can encrypt and transport, it's also that you're dealing with things like even internal threats in instances. So making sure that you have an administration environment that allows all of your actions to be basically recorded into an audit file is something that makes a solution like this what I'll call enterprise grade or enterprise ready. On the edge, we at Telit have the opportunity to do things like create an embedded SIM. The idea there is it kind of locks in a device into a certain network, so people can't necessarily grab the device, switch out a SIM, and try to point it somewhere else. We work with our carrier partners, and you can certainly have in the mobile network environment an APN, or think of it as a tunnel. That's a very secure tunnel through the wireless infrastructure. We have VPN capabilities outside of our cloud if you want to move something there. From a cloud storage point of view, some customers, some enterprises, may have compliance or some type of regulatory challenges around putting information into a public cloud environment. And this is something that I think is germane to certain solution sets. And our cloud service also has what we call a data in transit model, which really addresses a lot of the data at rest or the data security model issues. So information can come from the edge, transverse the system, not stop in the cloud, and come through and ultimately be placed in its entirety at our customers' described or subscribed defined data storage location, where the security and data custody issues and management of that data is completely in the hands of the customer.
Great. Next question we had come in is, so for a company that may not be specifically high tech, what internal engineering expertise and IT support would they require to get started with the platform?
One, I think it's a fantastic question. Two, extremely common use case. So a couple of things that you need to understand. I think first and foremost, it comes down to understanding the use case and what you want to ultimately achieve with the platform. So when we look down here again, it's about, and I'm just jumping through the slides, understanding what your goals and objectives are, and understanding the actors, the use cases, how this new connection, this new service, and forget how it happens or how it works, but once it happens, once it works, what will you want to do with it? How will you want that connection to ultimately add value to your business? So I would say anybody, whether you're technically brilliant or you're technically, sort of a neophyte, start with what this does for your business. When you define that, you're either going to enhance your configuration and sort of deployment cycle if you're doing it yourself, or you can hand over the use cases that you want to achieve to someone in the ecosystem who can potentially help you through this. At Telit, we have a couple of different options for companies. One, it's pretty simple to do a lot of this. It's managed as a service. You don't need to know really anything about computing per se. It's subscribed for you. You create an org for yourself, but you need to work through sort of how do you configure the system and how do you ultimately connect, create an alarm or event. We do this through basically almost a flow charting engine on an asset gateway, or we do it through cloud triggers that you saw when we were doing the geofence model. So there are some pretty easy tools, and there's some great help screens and definitions right inside the platform. So if you go to help.devicewise.com, you'll see an enormous amount of information to help you basically go through and guide you through a simple deployment and some simple sort of 1, 2, 3 getting started. If this is not what you want to do, then I'd say reach out to us, reach out to ILS or Telit, and we can certainly direct you to a number of very, very qualified SIs and system integrators or hardware builders that can even assist in implementing a design with a module for connectivity, as well as application integration on the right side of this picture.
All right, thanks. We've had a couple follow-up questions.
Start with the business problem you're trying to solve.
Of course.
Okay.
So we've had a couple follow-up questions to the security one asked earlier. First, are the systems compliant with PCI DSS security standards for handling credit card data?
Very good question. So our platform as it stands as an entity that is not PCI qualified. What happens is you take the solution that you're going for and ultimately getting it compliant qualified. So many of our gateway companies, and partners that we work with, they have a channel for the transaction of the data to the credit card processing company, etc. So typically you take the solution, and this applies not just to PCI, it can apply to like HIPAA, it can comply to a lot of these standards that you see out there for different industry verticals. What traditionally is the requirement is you take the entire solution and you get it certified. Now, our solution is compliant across what I would say a general component compliance, but you ultimately have to take your total solution through and validate its compliance at that solution level.
All right, thank you. Next question coming in, can any Telit device connect to the platform?
Yes, any Telit device can indeed connect to the platform. Some connect easier than others, so the newer Telit devices that are shipping clearly have the APIs and the AT commands embedded inside the device, so it's very easy to issue a couple of connect APIs, etc., and move that information into the cloud, into the service. But there's also the ability, we have many Telit devices and non-Telit devices that reside on gateways that are being used with our full agent, which ultimately transmits our connectivity APIs through the network. And then finally, if you have a legacy Telit device that was potentially built on a proprietary protocol, maybe you created your own TCP or UDP protocol, we can translate that into the platform through our proxy model, for our hosted gateway model.
Great. Next question coming in. What data
and that goes for any non-Telit device as well. So it's completely open.
Oh, that's great. Cool. All right, next question coming in. What data backend are you using, such as AWS, Google Cloud, etc.?
Good question. So our platform is very, very open with regard to where we place it. You will see our platform running in a variety of different environments, and something that we didn't mention but we need to, I think for completeness, is this service can be offered as a service in your geography, for example, in AWS, and it's a multi-tenant system, so it's multi-tenant, multi-org, multi-role, multi-user system. So let's say that the MTEM Air cloud platform in Europe is running in a European AWS data center. In the US, it's running in a US based data center. In Asia, it's running in an Asian based data center. So we have a great way to create, best performance in geography type of requirements. Now, we also have this entire platform, the DeviceWise platform, which is here depicted by the endpoints, and the MDEM Air Cloud powered by DeviceWise is also distributed through OEM relationships with some of the large MNOs globally. And there, they may actually wish to place it in their own private data center. We have some very large SIs who have placed our entire platform in a private data center that has been created for their use on their behalf, that might be running, in a raised floor environment. It might be running in GCP, in the Compute Engine Google Cloud, or it might be running in AWS or some defined choice. But it's a very open, portable platform that we can place in a lot of different environments.
All right, I think we have time for just a couple more questions. We had one that just came in as a follow-up to your last question. So how do you connect DeviceWise cloud platform to data analytics cloud?
So the picture that I have up, I think the screen is still being presented. So this is a great example of there's cloud-to-cloud integration that happens from our platform directly to, for example, an SAP HANA Cloud, or to a Google BigQuery or a Bigtable kind of an environment that could be in all of these sort of third-party analytics engines or other, sort of post-processing environments. So we can take care of that for you. In addition, we have some customers that move the information to their environment, to their raised floor, or to their data rest model, and they may have a variety of different analytics packages, or maybe even custom analytics packages that they've created over time for their industry or their assets, hitting a data storage model that is resident in their environment. And this can be a SQL, it can be a non-SQL, it can be a variety of data storage models where you may actually have your analytics a platform or your analytics solution hitting those data models to extract value.
Great. So we'll just have two more questions. The first of which, how do you go about displaying InSync properties of a device, such as any sort of graphs or other visual metrics that you measure?
So again, when we flip over at the portal level, if you add a device and you add a property to a device, what you will immediately see is on our portal automatically generated a new property and a new curve. So for example, here when we went back to the car, we were talking about things like odometer reading, speed limit, fuel level, etc. If I were to add a new property to the thing definition of this vehicle, and maybe I said shock and vibe, X, Y, and Z accelerometer, I could do that and it would add immediately there for me. Let me give you an example of that. So this is one car that didn't have that on there. I'm going to flip to a car that does have a different set of properties, and you will see that it basically auto-populated those properties in a very, very similar fashion. But again, you're going to see, acceleration X, acceleration Y, acceleration Z. In addition, you still see things like the speed limit data. So these are a different set of tags or odometer properties that are still for a vehicle, a different vehicle type or a different type of a connection, but they're just rendered automatically. If you want to display these in more of a UI UX user experience environment, then you would go to either a dashboard builder kind of a product line, or you would go to something that's maybe more of a native web kind of an environment where you're grabbing widgets and tagging those widgets to some key properties and building out a solution for your customer set more like this.
All right, Fred, one last question. What's the easiest way to get set up with a trial?
Well, that's a slam dunk question. So you got me to one that I know I can answer right at the end without any question, and that is go immediately to cloud.m2mair.com and create an account. And when you do that, it will basically ask you to put in your email, and it will send you an email invite. Then you get on and you create your credentials. And as part of your email extension or your account name, you'll define an organization, and you'll be live probably within 15 to 20 minutes. You'll have an account and you'll be ready to roll.
All right, great. That's about all the time we have.
And ultimately, if you need a system.
Oh, go on.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Great. No, I see. And then if you need, please reach out to the contact here that's going to be in the deck. Send an email if there's an incremental set of questions or discussion points you'd like to have, or a commercial discussion about how this is priced, which is basically per use. So it's a thing per month kind of a pricing model, so you pay as you grow. Feel free to reach out to Brooke Walsh.
All right, great. Thank you. I want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, Connecting Edge Devices to the Enterprise, Cloud, and Internet of Things, presented by Telit. Again, our presenter today was Fred Jens, President and CEO at ILS Technology, a Telit company. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.